Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody from here in London and also from Orange County in sunny California. Thanks for joining us for another Evernym webinar. My name is Andy Tobin and I look after Evernym's business in Europe. Today, joining me are Tyler Ruff and James Monaghan. So Tyler, could you just do an intro for us, please?
Yeah, hello. Good morning, good evening. I'm Tyler. I've been with Evernym for about 7 years now. I've been in charge of the mobile products that we've been building and some of the cloud products. And I love user experience design. I've been into that for quite some time, and it's been really fun to blaze some trails and come up with some new user experiences that just haven't been possible until very recently. So excited to be here.
Thanks, Tyler. And James, over to you.
Hi, everybody. I'm James Monaghan, and I'm the head of product here at Evernym. I've been with the company since the autumn of 2016, so not quite as old as Tyler, but we've had the privilege of working together for those years, and everything he told you is true. He's done a phenomenal job of charting the course for one of our most visible assets, which is our mobile applications, and we're really excited to be sharing both some of the recent work we've done with you and also some of what we've got planned for the months ahead. So it should be an interesting session today. Yeah,
I've been looking forward to this one. Thanks very much, James. So by now, if you're a regular attendee, you'll know these webinars are focused on self-sovereign identity and digital credentials. We run webinars like this regularly to help you learn faster and build a lot more efficiently as well. And since we launched Sovereign in 2016, we've seen the interest in SSI, self-sovereign identity, grow and multiply. And with COVID kicking off, forcing things to go digital and remote, that interest has really skyrocketed recently. On our last webinar, we covered our open source plans, describing how we're opening up our proprietary code bases and encouraging that already brilliant momentum to reach the next level. And you can see that webinar and all the previous ones at evernym.com/webinars. So please go and have a look at that. Today, we're talking about user experience, specifically mobile apps. We're going to cover what's new in our own digital wallet app, which is Connect Me. And we're also going to be officially unveiling our Mobile SDK as well. Our Mobile SDK lets you build your own digital wallet apps really quickly. It's been in beta for a few months now with some of our best customers working on it and pulling it to pieces and giving us some really good feedback. And it's now time to take the covers off. So we'll take you through how to use it, what people are doing with it, and some of the lessons that we've learned along the way as well. Also, what I'd like to do is invite you to a green room session. I've just popped the next slide, Tyler, thank you. Green room sort of breakout session immediately after the formal part of this presentation. I think there's a lot of us, we're kind of missing the more face-to-face events of pre-COVID, and we wanted to experiment with something a little bit more interactive. It worked really well on the last webinar, so we're going to try it again. We will be able to share audio and video, join in the conversation and ask broader questions. So it's a bit more relaxed. We don't have a firm agenda for that bit, but as per usual, you're free to ask questions and we'll work on those in the background just to collate them all and cover as many of them as we can in that green room session. Last time we moved to a separate Zoom room. If you're in on that, we're going to keep it all in this webinar thing today. So it'll make it a bit easier for everyone, I think. So as per usual, if you've got any questions, which there always are, which is brilliant, we love your questions, and the challenging ones are even better. So please drop your questions in the webinar Q&A. You'll see at the bottom it says Q&A. Put your questions in there. Behind the scenes, Alex gathers all of these up for us, and we'll go through as many of them as we can in the green room afterwards. So any questions, drop them in there for us, please. So that's the initial formalities done with. I'm going to hand over now to James, who's going to give you a quick introduction to digital wallets and set the scene for the rest of the webinar. So James, over to you.
Thanks, Andy. So as you mentioned, I'd like to kick off just with a few minutes before Tyler gets into the juicy details on why we're even talking about wallets. And The reason is fairly simple. There's a lot of the content we talk about here is deep technical details, long-term strategy about adoption, what it means for business and things like that. But the wallet, the mobile app, the piece that the individual interacts with, it's got two very important characteristics. It's the most visible part of the whole solution. It's the thing that is actually there and present in each and every one of those use cases. And it delivers the largest impact to what we believe is the most important stakeholder, which is the individual themselves. And so a lot of our products and the Verity product in particular is very strongly focused on making it as easy as possible for organizations to consume this technology and make it available to their end users. But the mobile wallet is the most intimate part of it, the bit that is really very strongly end user facing. And so we thought it was about time that we really spent some time to talk about what that means and what our offerings look like in that area. As as the slide here seeks to explain, this has got some similarities, but also some key differences to your physical wallet. You know, we call it a wallet to conjure this metaphor. But it's not just a digital version of your physical wallet, just as the credentials inside it are not just digital equivalents of the physical credentials that you carry around. Both are imbued with unique capabilities because of the way that they've been digitized. And so while it's certainly possible to have equivalents of the membership cards, payment cards, government identity, etc., so forth, as anyone who's worked with verifiable credentials knows, you can do very special things with them by digitizing them. You can share selectively only certain attributes from them. You can verify with very high integrity that they haven't been tampered with, compromised, or revoked. And you can use trust that you've garnered in one relationship to build trust in another, which is really, really important. And the wallet has similar properties. The wallet is not just storage for these, what are essentially text files that contain some specially formatted data. The wallet is also secure, privacy enhancing, and user-centric control over those credentials. It's the way that an individual can manifest themselves in these digital interactions. And so I know that sounds somewhat grandiose, and when you see, and for those of you who've interacted with a wallet, you may feel that it only does quite a basic amount of that today. But I think it's really important to say that directionally, that's how we view it. There's a lot of focus today on enabling the first handful of production use cases to actually go to scale in the market. But we believe that verifiable credentials, decentralized identity, and digital wallets can fundamentally transform user experiences. And the wallet is the beating heart of that proposition. And so it is both storage and software. And the focus of what Tyler will be taking you through is kind of how that melds into both exciting user experiences, but also capabilities for our customers to build their own. So if we hit the next slide, if you would like, instead of those 4 minutes, if you would like 40 or more minutes on that, we did have a panel back in October with a fantastic group of attendees who have built and have ruminated at quite some length on the different aspects and considerations of digital wallets. I would strongly encourage you to go check that out, as well as the other webinars that we've recently published. But without further ado, I'll kick it over to Tyler, who will take you on a tour of both Connect.me, which is Evernym's own branded digital wallet, but also our Mobile SDK, which we're excited to announce the imminent availability of. Tyler, over to you.
Awesome. So yeah, you've heard this term Connect.me, and for those of you who haven't heard it before, this is the name of our flagship mobile product, and it is a digital wallet, as James said, and its purpose is to help put individuals in control of their digital data and give them the ability to carry or hold and carry with them digital credentials or any verifiable thing. It's a verifiable container that can be put completely under the user's control, and that was the goal in mind when we launched it 2 years ago. So the call to action for individual users is hold and manage and share your digital credentials. And we use the analogy of a physical wallet because it has merit in the same way that you use your physical wallet to accomplish a whole bunch of different cases, whether you need to pay something, you need to identify yourself to buy some drugs at the grocery store, or you need to prove membership at a loyalty club. All of those things are usually plastic cards or some kind of identification, or certification or credential that we hold in our physical wallet. Well, as James said, you put this in a digital format and give it some of the cryptographic properties that come with digital wallets, and you've now given users a superpower. And that is the spirit of Connect Me, is putting users at the center and flipping the model of who traditionally holds data upside down. And so that's the key. That's the bread and butter of what digital wallets do, is they gather and store credentials. The credentials themselves provide the value. And so when you can market to an end user and tell them you can control and share data and know what's being shared and what's not, and it actually lives on your phone, that is a completely different experience that more and more people are starting to care about. The other cool thing about digital wallets that's really important to understand is the way that they form connections, the way that data is shared. Every time that you share data or receive data in the form of a credential or otherwise with a digital wallet like Connect.me, it's done via a pairwise private cryptographic connection. It uses public key infrastructure similar to what our web browsers do when we connect to websites, but it's more sophisticated, and those connections are persistent. They remain there with the user on their phone. And so you can activate these connections and share with them at any time. And so they are persistent and they last as long as you need them to. And each one of them is private or unique, which is a unique characteristic to digital wallets. It's been said that it's like having a private hotline or the presidential red phone that's encrypted and only calls one place. It's like having one of those, but for every contact that you've ever had or every digital relationship that you create. That's how powerful it is. The other cool thing about digital wallets to understand is that every request that you is sent to you to share, and that's the preview here, is I'm being asked to share a temperature check in order to get on a plane, is the example. We use what's called zero knowledge proofs, and it's an important piece of technology to understand because it has big privacy and correlation characteristics that put the user's data and its privacy at the beginning. So zero knowledge proofs is just a fancy way of saying that zero extra knowledge is leaked when you share information. If you think about the way things work today, if I need to flash my driver's license to get into a bar, that person sees everything that's on my license, not just the thing they need, which is that I'm over 21, which isn't even my birth date. That kind of information can be used to commit identity fraud and to correlate me in ways that I don't want. And that can all be solved by using zero knowledge proofs and being very smart about what information is asked for and what information is shared. And so over time, this will result in the ability for organizations that need to verify customers, whether you're under KYC regulations or you just need to hold information about users, you can hold a lot less of it, or you can hold it in such a way that it's not so strongly identifying and correlating. So I mentioned we've launched Connect Me 2 years ago. We've learned a ton. There have been so many good lessons and developments in the space that we play in, which is called self-sovereign identity. We've been in a lot of pilots, and we've been in proof of concepts where it's anywhere from trying to see what the technology can do, where it can be applied, to really high trust, high value transactions. We've learned a lot about the user experience and what users expect, what they get confused about. The industry as a whole is getting a lot bigger, and the space is heating up fast. There are multiple open source communities now, and there's constant revisions to the standards of the protocols and the technology, even the terminology that we use. is quickly being standardized, and big companies are rallying around this digital movement to put credentials digitally, securely, safely on your phone. I mentioned interoperability. Interoperability just means that you're not locked into using one vendor's product. This isn't this, and the products that we're going to talk about today are not just Evernym's toys that only work with Evernym's software. The whole point is that just like the way that you use the internet, you can use any browser you want, and you can use any computer or any device you want, and it just works. You can browse to any website you want. That is the goal for digital wallets and digital credentials, is that you can choose a wallet vendor that fits your needs. So if you don't like Evernym's Connect Me wallet for holding and caring for your data, you can port that out and use a different competing wallet. That's exactly what we want, is a competitive landscape, so that we end up with the best user experience with the best set of features for end users, and there will be a competition for that. So two specific areas of interoperability that are very important and have been a focus of for us. It's been the Aries interop profile. This is more a technical place to go for interoperability at the protocol level. So having a standardized way of sharing data, of making connections and communicating over the internet between devices. And then the trust over IP interoperability profile is much more expansive, and it has to do with trust frameworks, which we'll get into in a different webinar. But this is ongoing, and it's important to understand that this is a continual effort. Any technology that is new, like the self-sovereign identity technology that we're talking about here in digital wallets, it'll take some time before we coalesce around standards and the interoperability really becomes super useful. But we're very committed to that. We've learned a lot about this. A couple of key takeaways since we've launched Connect Me that we want to share with you is digital wallets are actually able to solve business problems in real ways and in new ways that haven't been possible before you took this specific approach to sharing and collecting data. The other takeaway is that digital wallets, they need to be intuitive. And a user who doesn't know what a digital wallet is, doesn't understand what a credential is, they need to be able to get through the user's journey, and it needs to feel as intuitive as it currently feels for them to pull out their wallet or their purse and use the physical identification cards or use whatever thing they're doing in the real world, in the physical world. They should be able to do it digitally just as easily. Another takeaway is that wallets, for wallets, and this is a recent one, wallets don't really need to have a concept of connections that necessarily is surfaced to the user. In order for the user to complete an interaction and to get through a business flow, you can really kind of hide that in the background and take care of it for the user if the use case calls for that. The other thing that we're learning, which is very interesting, is that originally when we started, we thought that every business, every customer that we sold our products to would want their brand on the wallet. But what we're finding is that for some use cases, you can actually have your brand at the credential level. And I'll get into a little bit more about this when we start showing some screenshots. But what this means is that you don't have to have, it's similar to how in the early days of the .com boom, there were a whole bunch of browsers that were competing, and many companies were trying to build their own web browser because they thought that's where their brand presence needed to be. But then over time, they realized, well, you only need your brand presence on your website. You don't need to build a whole browser. You just have a really good website for your business. And the similar thing is happening with the credential level being an important brand presence where people establish their brand, which is really cool. So we've launched a new version of the app, and it incorporates a lot of feedback that we've had from customers. We've been testing in all kinds of use cases, and we've tried to maintain a general purpose digital wallet feel, but that can serve specific use cases really well. And if you look at the common thread between the different use cases that ConnectMe has been used for, it's gathering data and then sharing data and doing that in a quick and efficient way. And so that's what this is here. This is a new design for credentials. This more strongly suggests to the user with the download icon, this is data that I'm being offered to share or to save in my wallet. And so on the next slide, this is a share request. So this is a redesign of how you do sharing. So on the right, you see when the user is asked for data, you can see what the wallet has already autofilled and asked and said, okay, we've gotten a request for all this information and we filled it in with what we already have in the wallet. Do you want to share? And we've got the little paper plane icon that just denotes sharing to the user. And after testing this in a couple of different places, we found that these designs are having a higher success rate of users understanding when they're sharing versus when they're being asked to save more data or collect data in their wallet. And we've just simplified the design.
Hey, but I think it's worth noting actually on both those screens as well, we took steps to increase the prominence of the brand of the party that is either issuing the credential or that you're sharing it with, because at the end of the day, that's who the end user trusts, right? So a big part of the feedback we got was, you know, this little icon that we've got to squint at, it's not exactly clear who's asking me for this information, and we wanted to make that really, really prominent as well. So hopefully everybody saw that that was one of the changes you put in there as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's worth covering again, because in this example, Best Airways is the airline who's wanting me to share the information. And so putting your brand presence right there front and center kind of helps the user feel comfortable sharing information, and they know where it's going. And it's in context of what the user's trying to do, which in this case is boarding a plane. So thank you, James. So this is an existing view that we've simplified. We went away from a footer style over here to where the user's navigation would be at the bottom over to a drawer on the side. And we've just kind of simplified and moved away a lot of the distractions from the contacts or the connections that you have and the things that you can do there. And so that way it not only looks better, but it's much easier for users to find what they need at a glance. So this is kind of an interesting improvement that came directly from some production pilots at an airport and different pilots going on at credit unions, where the use case took 6 steps to get through. The user had to go up to a kiosk, scan a code, and then see a prompt, accept the prompt for establishing the connection. That's step 2. See that happened in step 3 and 4, and then get a notification to get their credential. And so it was just a lot of steps, and it was cumbersome. We've collapsed that down to 3 steps now. Now the connection is formed in the background, and it happens automatically. So the user goes up, scans, and as soon as they scan, they see the thing that they're there to see, which is a credential offer. They immediately see that. And so in some situations, this makes sense where it's high context and the user expects to be receiving some information from one of their contacts. In this case, example credit union is giving you a member pass credential. These screens are new. So if you're going to have a digital wallet, you need to see what's in it, right? And so the card design is a common paradigm that again and again with every user test that we did with competing designs, this design won out as something that users most intuitively understood and went, okay, yeah, I get that. That's really cool. I have multiple credentials of this type, and I have 1 or 2 of this other type. And so that's what this represents here, is a way for a user to easily see and view and then share the credentials that they have in their wallet. And so this is as new. The screen on the left is coming in the future version of ConnectMe, and that will be happening in a couple of weeks before the end of the year. And then on the right, you see what, if you were to tap on one of those cards and see the details of the credential, that's all the attributes and the issuing party that issued you that credential, and then you'll be able to show it by generating a QR code. So that's enough about Connect Me. Let's talk about the Mobile SDK. About May or April of last year, we started getting a lot of demands for a mobile SDK. And we had customers really wanting to empower their existing mobile apps. Some of these customers have already poured millions of dollars of development into their mobile apps that they have. And they were asking, well, can I empower my app to become a digital wallet? And the answer is yes, you can. And so we started exploring the idea of an alpha mobile SDK, and it quickly graduated into a beta. And last March, we launched a beta mobile SDK, or excuse me, this March. And we had just a handful of organizations that were testing it, and we're building, some of them were building into an existing app. Most of them were building a new wallet app. And we began to make available parts of the Connect Me code base to power this mobile SDK. And the goal, obviously, is to create a seamless customer experience where the data lives on your phone. And that's the spirit of our mobile SDK, and that's what empowers you to do. We had so much demand that we had to cut off access to the beta, and we needed to, we just couldn't support everybody at the same time. And so we created a wait list. And we've been working really hard all of this year on making it generally available. And so we're happy to announce that. We've launched 5 apps. James will go over these in a little bit, but our customers have built 5 apps that we want to highlight today using our mobile SDK. There's a staff passport app. There's a health credential holder app that's going to be holding COVID-19 related credentials. There's an authenticator that's being used to log into your credit union when you walk into the branch or when you call their call center. There's a government issued one that will be collecting digital IDs. And then there's travel credentials that will help users get back traveling again amid the pandemic and be able to travel safely. We've gotten a ton of feedback from all these use cases. As you can see, they're very diverse use cases, and they're all using the interop profile or protocols that you get when you use our mobile SDK. And so we're really happy with the progress, and we've gotten incredibly positive feedback about it so far. There's a few lessons we've learned that we want to share. Interestingly enough, Connect Me for some time has had an ability to back up the wallet by exporting the wallet off of the phone. And then you had a recovery phrase that it would generate. And if you've ever bought or sold cryptocurrency before, you're familiar with this. But a backup phrase is something like 8 to 12 random words. And the app would generate this for you, and you'd need to save those random words somewhere safe. And then you would have a backup export.zip file that the app could export out of the app, and you could save it to your Google Drive or on a thumb drive and bury it in your backyard or whatever you wanted. And its purpose was to offer a way for the data on your phone to be backed up. And that's important because it's not backed up on the cloud. It lives on the phone. So if you lose your phone or you uninstall the app, you lose all the information if you don't have a backup. It's interesting because as we got to production pilots, our customers demanded that this feature be turned off. And the reason they did that is because they wanted the information that what they were putting on the user's phone to go away in the case that somebody else got my phone, or I lost my phone, or I uninstalled it. They viewed that feature as a risk for impersonation, which was really interesting. So the feature is available in the mobile SDK, and you can use it if it fits your use case. But that was a very interesting learning that we did not expect. Ease of use is something that's very important, not just for users, but for developers. And so our alpha version of the mobile SDK had some rough edges. The beta still had some rough edges, but was much better. And the generally available version that's coming before the end of the year will be the best we've ever had as far as the ease of use for a mobile developer to empower your app to hold, share, and verify digital credentials. Brand presence, we talked about this. It's really, really cool to see that across use cases, branding and a strong branding at the credential level is something that's been important, and that's been a hypothesis that we've been able to validate more or less with the pilots that have happened. And interoperability, we talked about that. When you buy Evernym's Mobile SDK, you get our full commitment to interoperability, and you get guarantees that things will work across systems within the industry. So these are some of the benefits of a full edge wallet when you build with the Mobile SDK. You can get a new sample app running in 15 minutes. We'll have a React Native sample app that has all of the Connect Me features and functionality in it that you can use. We have NPM packages that are simple to install. There are configuration scripts we'll make available to make that easy for you to connect to the right distributed ledger and the right environment and get things running. You'll be able to connect your own EULA and have the user accept your own terms and conditions. That piece we've made really easy. We have push notification support. That's something that is really interesting because in order to do it right, there's a forward mechanism that has to happen on the cloud side in order for your back end as an app developer to handle push notifications in the way that you're used to. That allows you to still hold and not have to share your push notification keys. So I can get more into detail about that in the Q&A if there's questions, but really happy about that one. There's configuration for the look and feel. If you want to just kind of rebrand or white label the sample app, that's fine. You can do that too. And you'll get all of Connect Me's features. There's a feature called structured messages, which was previewed earlier, where you can send a custom tailored question to a user's phone that says, hey, are you logging in on this website right now? Are you talking to Sophia support at the credit union right now? Yes or no? And you can actually customize what the primary and secondary action buttons are that the user sees. So all of that is included in the Mobile SDK. It'll be generally available before the end of the year. We've been working hard all year to get this ready. So in the beta, the little dark bar, you'll be able to generate and present proofs, accept credentials, and form connections. And then that's been available in beta. And then in generally available, you'll get push notification handling, the documentation that goes around with that. You'll be able to suppress the connection step and do that in the background. That uses an Aries out-of-band protocol. And that will be available. That was the screenshots where we condensed from 6 steps to 3 earlier. NPM packages, easy to install. We have been rewriting and adding a ton of documentation. And so there should be, there will be a lot more to go over there. Customizable icons, UI, styles, components. You'll be able to get your own sample app running in 30 minutes, which is a huge improvement from alpha and from beta. We're continually making our products easier to use and easier to run off with and get your use case up and running. So that's where we are at the moment with being generally available. So this is the roadmap. In December, we're going to open source the Mobile SDK. We will open source the Connect.me code base as well. And we're going to simplify the build process and remove dependencies on our private repositories so that you'll be able to very easily, very quickly get the Mobile SDK up and running. In next year, we want to add support for 32-bit devices. We've seen increasing demand for that, especially as our pilots have ramped up. There's still a lot of devices in the world that run 32-bit. Even though they market their 64-bit capable, they still run a 32-bit operating system. And currently, ConnectMe doesn't support that, and the Mobile SDK doesn't support that. We'll be adding that support to increase the lower-end devices and just a broader range of devices that the wallet can run on. More mobile languages. We've had tons of requests for Kotlin documentation and support, and for Xamarin, some other mobile languages, full native languages as well. Revocation is an interesting one. That one is on the horizon for us. Predicates, that's being able to prove that your date of birth is greater than X number of days, for example, or that your temperature that was taken this morning is less than 98 degrees, for example. Every additional interop protocol that we add, you will get in the Mobile SDK. The Mobile SDK will inherit all of the changes and improvements that we make to our products. It will remain a first-class product for all of our customers, and we'll be able to support multiple ledgers at the same time. That's coming next year as well. So I'm going to turn over to James. I mentioned that we had several customers building some awesome applications using the Mobile SDK this year, and we want to highlight those for you. So, James?
Thanks, Tyler. Gosh, take a breath. I hope everyone appreciates that was a huge amount of effort that went in from a massive team that Tyler just covered in just a few minutes there. But we couldn't be more proud to share all that with you guys. Yeah, the next section is all about what customers have actually done using our Mobile SDK. So if we click to the first one, I'm going to step through 5 examples. Are you able to advance the slide there, Tyler, for me? Thanks, buddy. So the first is a very exciting one. I guess before spring of this year, I was quite a regular traveler and used to find the airport experience, if not exactly stressful, certainly cumbersome. And fortunately, our colleagues in the airline industry have been long looking at that problem. And IATA, which is the trade body representing over 200 airlines, has had a contactless travel initiative in the works for quite some time. And a key component of that is a mobile app, which allows the passenger to digitize their passport from their home and securely share their advanced passenger information with their airline and their point of departure, and in future even with customs on arrival. So that when they arrive at the airport, they don't need to handle physical documents, they don't need to queue up at physical check-in counters. They can just have a very lightweight and these days a very contactless experience, which is critical given the current pandemic. And so this app we're very excited about the development of. This is not currently publicly available, but it's powering a couple of exciting pilots, which we should be able to talk about soon. The next is a use case that is kind of on the other end of the spectrum from the very familiar to the somewhat exotic. Doctors here in the UK move between hospitals fairly frequently, both during their training and subsequently when they're practicing. As one of the most regulated and highly trusted professions, they need to prove an awful lot about themselves before they're allowed to go interact with patients in a new setting. They need to prove employment history, identity and background checks, medical qualifications, academic qualifications, and so forth. And the state of the art for this until now has been physical pieces of paper and a few Excel sheets that get emailed around. And so True, which is a UK-based startup founded by a pair of doctors, embarked on a journey a number of years ago to digitize that whole process. And in doing so, they believe they can save the UK's health service 40,000 clinical days each year and an absolute fortune that's spent on pre-employment checks. So they've used our Mobile SDK to build a very use case specific mobile wallet that is all geared around the needs of healthcare professionals to collect those credentials and be able to easily share them to prove their work credentials when they're showing up in a number of these different clinical settings. I love this use case because even though I'm not a doctor and I will never use it directly, it's an example of how actually this is not just about business efficiencies and saving people money, but actually saving the time between someone arriving somewhere and actually being able to help patients, which can have a real impact on folks' lives. The next one is a Spanish company called Tecnite. Now, this is a government ID use case, which is some consider to be kind of the holy grail of digital identity. So again, what Tecnite have done 2 quite important things here. Our mobile app currently only supports the English language. That is somewhat embarrassing in the 21st century, but as a startup, we've had to ruthlessly prioritize the markets we support. And so at the moment, our user interface is only in English. And as Tyler shared, we've spent a lot of energy focusing on building a general purpose set of user experiences. Whereas for the use case that Techno is focused on, it needs to be translated into Spanish and needs to be focused on quite a narrow bound of particular use cases. And so they were able to take our mobile SDK and produce an app that has both their branding, is naturalized in the language of their target users, and has a user interface that is specifically geared to the tasks which those individuals are partaking in. And the next one, we're back in the healthcare realm here. So Lumedic is a startup that has been building an application also for healthcare workers to be able to share their COVID-19 test status, which is something that for folks interacting with vulnerable populations, at the moment they're required to get tested very regularly. And this is sharing those results and having an up-to-date record of the testing status of all the staff who are interacting with all the different settings is actually quite burdensome. And so again, you could technically power this use case with a general purpose credential and a general purpose wallet app, but healthcare workers are busy. They want tools that are specifically focused to their needs. And so what the team at Lumedic have done is build an app which is really laser focused on that use case. And it's really exciting to see. And as we've been clicking through these, I hope you notice how colorful and how different all these different apps have been. It's actually really exciting. Tyler, I hope I speak for both of us when I say this. When you see when someone takes something like an SDK, which is obviously just some code and API, and you see it brought to life in someone else's product, I think certainly for me that's a big part of where I get my motivation.
Yeah, it's definitely warm and fuzzies when you see your product being used that way.
Yeah, definitely. And then, yes, this one is MemberPass, which is an app that's produced for the credit unions. MemberPass's ambition is to, or you see it there, is to revolutionize Hello. It's an authentication app that allows you to prove your credit union membership, whether you're in person at a branch, whether you're on the phone to a call center representative, or whether you're logging into an internet site or a mobile app. And so it's a very, very, very focused use case. It's all about, are you the individual that I was expecting to be able to authorize this transaction? But under the hood, it's powered by those really powerful and really flexible verifiable credential rails, which allows in future this same MemberPass digital credential to be used outside of the immediate credit union use cases. And so for that reason, our partner CU Ledger invested in building a dedicated MemberPass branded app that is specifically tailored to meet the needs of the credit union community. This was one of the first apps based on our mobile SDK to actually be published live in the app stores. So that was a really exciting milestone for us. Yeah, I think it's been steadily picking up downloads. So we're really happy to see how that's been received. So Tyler, back to you, I think, for next steps.
Yeah, so the way you get started with the mobile SDK is go to evernym.com/mobile SDK. I'm sorry, we do have to put you on a wait list for now. It is temporary. We will make it generally available by the end of the year. We are just having a lot of demand and a lot of great support requests that we're serving at the moment. But to get started, go to the first link, evernym.com/developers. We have a free sandbox plan. Try before you buy, and get started there. And you'll be able to get started with issuing and verifying credentials using our enterprise product. And then for the mobile SDK, please put questions in the chat. Or contact us. We'd love to talk to you and see what your use case is and what kind of mobile app you have in mind, or if you're wanting to embed wallet functionalities into your existing app. We're very interested in helping you do that as well. So here is our reasons for choosing us as a vendor for your digital wallet needs. We believe strongly that we've built the most advanced and most battle-tested digital credential platform in the world. We've worked with and are working with some very big reputable brands across the world. We are in all kinds of proof of concepts and production pilots, and we're in the middle of deploying a couple of them at scale in different parts of the world. So we are experienced, we know what we're doing, and we really understand privacy. The other thing that you get a guarantee of when you work with Evernym is a strong stance on interoperability. You'll be able to say to your customers that the solution you're giving them does not lock them in, and that is an important value add that's becoming increasingly important, at least that we've seen with all of the companies and even governments that we've talked to. It's a prerequisite for some of the pilots that we're in, is that there is proof of interoperability between our products and those of our competitors. And so we remain strongly committed to that. As you saw, we're open sourcing the ConnectMe code base and making available publicly the Mobile SDK and its components. And so we remain strongly committed to that. So really quickly, just a couple of lessons that have been learned and our thoughts on the future of digital wallets. And I'll go quickly on this because we want to leave time for some Q&A at the end in our green room. But digital wallets are coming. They're not going away. The global COVID-19 pandemic has shined a light and actually only increased the demand for a way to share data securely remotely. And that's something digital wallets are poised to do very well. Not all digital wallets are created equal. Some digital wallets hold their data in the wallet. It's actually hosted in the cloud. Our wallets, both the Mobile SDK and ConnectMe, are edge wallets, which means that the data actually does live on the phone. And that's an important distinction. And that is it. We've reached the end. If you have questions, please type them in or use the raise your hand feature. Andy, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler and James. Really well done there. A lot of content to get through and a huge amount of interest, judging by the massive influx of questions that everyone is asking. So thanks very much for piling those in.